What are the implications of the adoption of the SABC inquiry report? Are all the recommendations of the inquiry legally realistic? And how did the non-appearance of Hlaudi Montsoeneng impact the inquiry? And will some of the SABC staff members start fulfilling its mandate without fear or favor? What time is it? It's question time. Kgotsong and welcome to the show. My name is Mothambi. Members of Parliament from all parties except the UDM adopted the final ad-hoc committee report into the SABC yesterday. The report is a result of months of hard work geared towards bringing normality back to the public broadcaster. The UDM complained about the committee's failure to give former COO Hlaudi Montsoeneng a chance to tell his side of the story, the Audi Altram Partem rule, that is. The names of Montsoeneng and Communications Minister Faith Muthambi were mentioned several times during the deliberations. Meanwhile, the names of the members suggested to serve in the interim board were put forward earlier today. We are live. Therefore, you can call us and you've used the numbers to dial 089-1104-210. Our Twitter handle @questiontime24. My guest, Jayashree Patha. She's from the Media Freedom and Diversity. She's the spokesperson there. That's right to know. And Tandy Smith, Media Monitoring Africa. But before we get into the discussion, let's have a look at this clip by the chairperson of the Parliament ad hoc committee, Vincent Smith.
In the absence of getting to the bottom of the root cause of the problems at the SABC, the interim board and the permanent board would be set up for failure from the very onset. Honourable members, to argue that the inquiry should have ceased with its work once the chairperson resigned would have been an exercise in futility, in as far as making sure that the SABC of tomorrow is in a better place than the SABC of today. Speaker, the SABC board was dysfunctional and incoherent at the time that the ad hoc committee commenced its work. In reporting back to this House, we recommend that the National Assembly formally dissolve the SABC board, including the three executive board members.
Well, that was the chairperson of that ad hoc committee, which made quite a lot of work. A reminder that you can call us and air your views. The numbers to dial 089-1104-210. Ladies, welcome to the show. Really appreciate you making time. Unfortunately, we couldn't have representatives of the SABC itself. Meetings, and certain things are still, undecided. So, yeah. But we'll have the SABC. You are interested parties in what is happening within the SABC. The ad hoc committee's or inquiry report was adopted. Your views?
It's great to be here, and especially at a time like this where we've seen the National Assembly adopt the inquiry report.
Yeah.
We really welcome the adoption, and we, like you said earlier, it's been months of deliberations, months of a very intensive inquiry process that's been, very public, very publicly scrutinized as well. But it's been a very impressive process, and it's put our faith back in a parliamentary process and structure that is serving the people.
One of the things that were said throughout the hearings, and I'm sure you would have picked it up with one of the questions that we asked, that maybe some people may now start working without fear or favor.
Well, certainly it's right to know. We hope that will be the case. We've seen a staggering number of incidents of censorship, of silencing, and also self-silencing. We as Right to Know have often been outside of these walls, on the streets, when the big debate, for example, was scrapped. So we certainly hope that this inquiry and the process going forward is going to restore a lot of the credibility that seems to have tainted the SABC over this period, and we hope that the process will certainly strengthen those brave and courageous journalists who have continued to fight within inside the SABC to ensure that the public has a right to know.
Well, I guess one of the questions that we're battling with as the SABC is what happens from now, right? The report has been adopted. It's got recommendations which some, well, legally they may be sound, but they also have implications on my job, for instance, on this channel.
Sure. It's the beginning. I mean, I think it's going to be a long process, and as you say, there are going to be a number of issues. How far back do we go in terms of financial mismanagement, for example? What happens to the contracts? Implications for staff? And there's going to be a lot riding on this new interim board in this next 6 months. They're going to have to steer the ship. But what we're hoping to see is that there is a restoration that actually journalists don't feel threatened, media workers don't feel threatened, that some of the chaos that people have had to face inside will be stabilized, and that you know, we'll get a stronger output as citizens who are at the receiving end.
Motsoeneng, you are in Pretoria.
Yes, how are you?
I'm well, thanks for the call.
Yes, it was about time that the ad-hoc committee was established in order to really slap out the shenanigans that has been taking place in the public broadcaster. Because this is a public broadcaster where people need to be informed and entertained and not serve interest of individuals. That's what I'm saying. Those who have to be found on the wrong side of the law, they must be punished so that even the team that is going to be elected to serve, they know that they are serving public interest, not individual interest, because this is a platform where everybody needs to be informed and not take sides.
Michelle, thank you very much for the call. What are your impressions? What do you think we come here and do?
You know, I think one of the fascinating things about the SABC is that, you know, while we have seen the ridiculous issues of accountability and, you know, issues of transparency at a high level, you still have your SABC employees coming to work every day, giving us programming, giving us the news. And although there have been some issues on various platforms that, you know, as Media Monitoring Africa, we've also picked up, but if you look at the bigger picture, it's incredible that you do have a public broadcaster that's still been able to operate under the circumstances that, you know, the SABC has found itself in. But that's not saying that the issues that came up, that have been coming up in the last couple of years, not only the last year, have had implications within the organization. But yeah, I think the points that the caller previously made is very true. The public broadcaster is here to serve, you know, the public, not individual interests.
Let's go to Lusiksiki in the Eastern Cape. Is it Cooks?
Yes, from Paul.
Yes.
How are you today?
I'm well. How are you?
Well, thanks, honorable member.
You are out of order.
Yes, you see, I first and foremost, I would like to congratulate the work that has been done by the ad-hoc committee led by the Honorable Vincent Smith. And I'm so proud that on this issue of Hlaudi Montsoeneng, at least once upon a time now is going to get rid of him, because his comments on the national TV was uncalled for and not just out of order, was grossly out of order, honorable. So at least now the new board, at least SABC now is going to work very hard, work for the entire South Africans, because the SABC, we salute because they are doing the very job, and also
For those Vuyom Voko and other lady over there, they were there. They told everything that is happening inside the SAB. So it seems that on a very serious note, a lot has been done. So I'm on the view that it must be dissolved and the new board must be appointed. Hope and wish is going to be monitored by the Parliament so that they must account maybe quarterly they must account to the Parliament. Has been done, and even the CEO, because now they're doing all these things, it wasn't like maybe there's some of the big boss behind them, maybe the politician, if I may put it that way.
Googs, thanks a lot. Now, yes, the SABC 8 appeared and whatever, but there's one man who wasn't given the opportunity to appear there.
I'd like to, contradict that statement. And, that one man in particular was given opportunity right in the very beginning, but, chose to, along with other certain members of the so-called board, decided to walk out of the inquiry. And, I think that he was given a chance to testify, and he didn't. So I do think that is saying a lot from his side.
What are your impressions there?
I think it's very similar to what Thandi said. We must also remember that the inquiry was focused on the board, and I think that there were opportunities. The display of arrogance that the executive members, some executive members of the SABC, along with board members, in walking out, in dismissing the inquiry, and basically saying that we don't really need to account to you. I mean, telling Parliament, for example, you don't give us enough money, we therefore do not need to account to you or to the South African public, is a staggering display of arrogance. So I think there were points at which, Hlaudi Montsoeneng, for example, could have appeared. He chose not to. But certainly, I'm sure this is going to be contested as we go forward, and we'll see what happens. But I think the overall inquiry was a very fair process, and I think people had a lot of opportunity to participate, and it was conducted in the full glare of the public eye, which was very important.
Let's go to Emondi. Gift, welcome.
Paul, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm fine. I can see you, man. You're great. Bo? Hello?
Yes?
Okay. Oh, Bo, I just want to congratulate the Parliament for adopting the report.
Okay.
Never mind about the UDM. UDM, they just wanted attention, man. Never mind about them. I have a little worry here. You know this guy called James Akuma. No, man. I think SABC, they must try hard to get rid of that guy. That guy is a problem, I'm telling you. You understand? Yeah, I'm worried about that guy now. Even today, since the day that I know shenanigans of TNA breakfast, I don't even watch the TNA breakfast. But now, every day, I'm thinking about that guy, James Akuma. They must try to get rid of that James Akuma.
Okay, Gabe, thanks.
Okay.
By the way, I know that my executive producer, Mawapiri, tried his best to get hold of Mr. Aguma to be part of today's show, but like I said, we're not able to get representatives of the SABC as yet. We definitely will have them on this show. Now, Gift is saying people must be fired. That's not a good thing.
I think that the relevant people accountable for the mismanagement and the issues that the SABC does find itself in should be held accountable. And if that means that certain people get fired, then that process needs to happen. But it needs to be a fair process that's accountable to the relevant authorities and taken in due consideration. So I think, calling for people to be fired, if they're legitimate grounds of doing so, then we need to see that process unfold.
Well, talking about firing, people's contracts are not being renewed right here at the SABC. Well, right to know, I know you're not in a union, but you're part of civil society. So some of the things that you are doing out there, you must know that there are some unhappy souls, some who may never have to set foot on the premises of the SABC?
I think the issue of human resources, contract management is something that received a lot of attention during the inquiry. So we also know, also based on the Public Protector's report, that issues of people's contracts are highly controversial, not all linked to the current situation, but people have been fired without due process. The SABC has had to pay a staggering amount of money to cover legal costs arising from some of this. So what we're hoping to see, certainly that media workers and journalists are protected, that there's due process, that there's fair process. I don't think anyone is calling for people to be fired willy-nilly. It's really those who have caused the problems have to be accountable. We can't escape accountability in this regard. Okay. And it's certainly not a case of saying that every single SABC employee is at risk. It's certainly those who have been found to have done wrong and at the expense of the public protector.
I'm going to rectify you there. Let me get Betty first. Betty, you are in Durban.
Yes, in Newcastle, in fact.
I'm well. How are you?
Yes, Paul.
Bob.
I just want to ask a question to those two ladies there.
Yes.
They seem as if they are concerned about the public. My word about them is this. What did they did or do when the bank collude against us? But now they seem now that they are the mouthpiece of our public now. You see? Okay. You see, these are the people that they are for regime change in disguise. Thank you.
Okay. Well, Becky there says, what did you do when the banks colluded? Why do you now come and talk too much about SABC and claim to be acting in the interest of the public when the collusion of the banks happened? You were nowhere to be seen.
I mean, he raises a very important point, and that is, you know, civil society advocating for public interest. Media Monitoring Africa, however, is, you know, focused on issues that are relevant to the public, but that, you know, we see emanating from a media perspective. Yeah. And, you know, we're not financial experts. So it is a space, there are relevant civil society organizations that would have gotten involved in the issues around bank collusion. Okay. You know, another organization, SOS Support Public Broadcasting, which MMA is a founding member of, we've been fighting for the SABC since 2008. Okay,
hold it there. Let's go to Cape Town. Ibrahim, welcome.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. How are you?
We're well, thanks.
Yeah, okay, listen, let me just ventilate a few points.
Okay.
So the first is, I mean, I also, like some of the callers that have called so far, would like to celebrate the outcome of the inquiry. I think it was done in a credible way, and I'm also very happy for the outcome. Though I will have to say that I'll rush to say that the jury, though, is out on whether the new road the SABC is going to be put on now is simply going to be one that is about the regime change, meaning new people in there, but structurally and institutionally, the institution remains unchanged, or whether there is going to be definitely not just a change of personnel, but actually real institutional and structural changes. In fact, one could argue it's because of the lack of checks and balances in the institution that people with a personality cult could emerge in the institution. So that's really going to be the key challenge for this particular institution. The second point I want to make, which is now addressing, directly targeted at the media fraternity in this country. I've always been really perplexed by this idea, or at least the notion that seems to be suggested by the media, that they are operating in a politically neutral environment. I don't think so. I don't even think journalists when they apply their craft or their trade, are politically neutral.
Wow.
So we need to. No. It's a fact. I mean, you check ANN 7. You get a particular political bias. You check ENCA, you get a particular political bias. If you read between the lines, the same with the SABC. It suggests to me that even journalists themselves, of course, because they're citizens too, they are political sways that influence the way they do their work, and I have no problem with that. The issue that I have is that in South Africa, there is no real critical discussion about the complexities of journalism in the country, in which we can actually recognize that, yes, we're not dealing here with a group of people who are, automatically just pure and, do not consider political factors when they apply their trade. I mean, that's for me the point. I mean, I could link this to the situation of the SABC currently, but I don't want to go that far. That's really just the main point.
All right, Ibrahim, thank you very much for your call there. You've made quite a lot of points. What are your expectations from today going on?
We're just at the beginning of a very long road. So we've had the announcement today of the names of the potential interim board. A lot rests on them to steer the process forward over the next 6 months. But then the bigger battle is also going to be to ensure that there is a very strong board, full-time board put in place. So I think we're really at the beginning of a process, and we're going to have to be vigilant. We're going to have to monitor the process and see how things unfold. But the first steps are definitely going to be what this interim board is going to do. And so the public has got to continue to engage, because I think what this process has done very effectively is put the issue of the SABC as a public broadcaster very firmly on the agenda. And South Africans at large are, and as you can hear from your callers, are all watching the process, are keen to see a broadcaster that serves the interests of the diversity of our nation. And the inquiry is an important first step. Your expectations?
I mean, I think starting off very similar to Jayshree's points, but also as one of the callers said, these are fundamentally structural issues that we've seen at the SABC, and there's certain people in power that have allowed for these structural issues to happen, and that needs to be taken into account. And one of the recommendations, is to really consider the power that the minister has over the processes at the SABC. And if you don't, get those structures right, and if we don't fix the accountability issues that we have there, we are just going to see another repeat of the same issues over and over again. So it really has to get dealt with at a higher level, and the power dynamics that we see at a political point. Well,
a deputy minister in the Republic of Zimbabwe in communications is a former broadcaster. So maybe we should come and talk to you guys to consider serving in the cabinet in those capacities as well. But thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
All right. That was question time for today. A big thank you to my guest and to you for watching the show. From me and the entire crew.